Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tasia Podcast, a podcast that hosts dedicated leaders influencing social transformation in their communities. I'm your host, Joseph Lajore, a teacher, author, and director of Samburu Empowerment Network Organization.
In today's episode, I host Jackson Lekatap, who is an advocate for persons living with disability in Samburu County. He is a focal leader in the community, championing for the right of persons living with disability in Samburu County and in Kenya in general. He has participated in a number of international conferences addressing the plight of persons living with disability, especially in relation to access to information, participation in political processes or democratic processes in their countries, and also the aspect of the effect of climate change and how it affects persons living with disability. Jackson, please introduce yourself and welcome to Tasia Podcast.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I think I'm happy to join you. My name is Jackson Lekatap. I was trained as a teacher. I'm a diploma holder, secondary option. And here in Samburu, I'm a PWD, persons living with disability activists. I've been advocating for their rights in both fields, and I think I will be happy to join you and discuss some of the matters concerned affecting them as people with disabilities, particularly in Samburu County and Kenya at large. Okay.
Thank you so much, Jackson. So I know the extent at which you are involved and passionate doing work that is related with persons living with disabilities, especially your advocacy work in Samburu County. So today, our discussion, we are going to discuss 3 parts. This discussion will be having 3 parts. So part number 1, it will be about accessibility to information, communication and infrastructure. That is in relation to persons living with disability here in Samburu County. So having in mind that, first of all, that when we talk about disability, it is a condition that it is there and any person can become disabled at any time, either through natural ways, or maybe through age, or through sicknesses, or some other choking event that can just happen and maybe someone can become disabled. So it's not something that is only pegged to a certain group of people. So, but it is something that is in general that can happen to any person, and you can get yourself in that situation. So I think it's good that people should know to what extent are persons living with disability in Samburu County not able to access the information. So maybe you can just tell us, when we talk about information, to be specific, talk about information relating to employment and any other information that is relevant to their own life. So how is it a challenge for persons living with disability to access information here in Kenya and in Samburu County in particular?
Well, thank you very much. I think disability is actually, we can call it a disability when it prevents someone from doing what they want, or maybe something that is significant in life. And when we talk about accessibility to information, communication, and infrastructure, I've personally experienced that, and I think access to information and communication is vital in the sense that it has helped in reducing such physical barriers in social and economic spheres. So when we deal about the issue of accessibility, we still have those challenges because information is not reaching disability as it is. What I can talk about access to information, we have got a number of our sisters and brothers who are hearing impaired, we call them HIs. These people have been undergoing a lot, because when you go to maybe seek help, that's now when you are a person with hearing impairment, you will go there and you will never have somebody who will interpret what you are going through to the doctor. Maybe in the situation that when one is sick. So there's that language barrier. Those people are not getting information on what is going on, maybe in the daily life, in the political matters, because now when you come to the county setup, some counties do have those with hearing impairment. They have interpreters who have been employed by their respective counties, and so maybe that can a bit help. But a number of counties like Samburu now, we don't have interpreters who have been employed to work and help our brothers with such problems. Again, we do also have challenges when we want to maybe, like now, infrastructural challenges. When you come to Samburu, you can see maybe some important offices, like now, in this case, the KRA, you know, there's nothing you can do without maybe passing through and getting the services of the Kenya Revenue Authority. You have the offices is maybe in the third and second floors up there, and people who have mobility challenges cannot reach at such offices because there are no ramps, there are no lifts. So we are undergoing a lot in general as people with disabilities. So that is all what I can say about the information and infrastructure, and also communication, because communication goes hand in hand with the story of the hearing and impairment. So that's all I can say about that.
Thank you so much. Just I love some follow-up, maybe clarifications pertaining the interpreters. Now you as an advocate, because you are a person who is really known, you are an advocate who is at the forefront of the line when it comes to actually fighting for the rights of persons living with disability in Samburu County. So are there some interventions that, or some ways that you have put in place to make sure that those things are addressed, maybe at the county assembly level, or even in the offices that are maybe above you? Have you relayed that information to them so that they can do something?
We have got a number of interventions that we have tried to put out in place. Like now in Samburu County, we do have an act. This act, we have at least initiated or set out some policies pertaining the construction and the infrastructure in the important offices where PWDs may need help. But now the challenge is the concern, maybe the government offices, they are too slow to implement these policies that will be helpful to DPOs or organization of persons living with disabilities. And I think we are doing also educating people in workshops about their rights, and also we are trying to support done to people with such challenges.
When we talk about maybe information, there is this key information that is very important. People living with disability getting the information when it comes to information related to employment, having in mind that employment is one of the biggest challenges that is facing every person, every youth here in Samburu County and in Kenya in general. But now, if these other people are facing challenges when it comes to getting information and actually accessing employment, what about now some of the issues facing people living with disability when it comes to information, accessing that information and getting the communications when it comes to employment, please?
I think when it comes to the story of disability, disability is in categories, and there are those who are physically challenged, and as I say, there are those who are hearing impaired. The physically, and maybe those with visual challenges, as the blind, may have been getting information like anybody else, but those with the hearing impairment, it is difficult for them. We have got a number of the hearing impaired people or the deaf people. These people, most of them are educated, but you find that it is difficult even for them to get information pertaining jobs. When you come across the job adverts, I think the government also need to initiate a policy that will make sure there are opportunities available for such categories of disability. That is now the hearing impaired and many others, because most of their adverts do not favor them. You cannot find any job career that is related with their disability, or even if there is maybe a job that is related to that, these people do not get the necessary information that they require to apply for that job. So, as I said earlier, disability is in so many categories, and we have some disabilities who do have more advantage than the others.
Okay, thank you so much. And then in relation to that, the last part, thing that I need to inquire about persons living with disability, when it comes to the disability, when it comes to recording and reporting of cases of persons living with disability, do you feel that all persons with disability are captured? Their data is there, is available, or it is underestimated, or something of that kind? Maybe you can just tell me the extent at which you think that that information is available, so that they can get the support when it's required.
What I can say about that is not really. The data pertaining people with disability is not captured well. Not only in the county level, but even in the national government. When they make an advert, for example, I can give you one, when they were recruiting these people, the registration officers, there is that data they have put online and everybody applied. So when they were recruiting and they were giving out the jobs, they were doing interviews. I went there with my colleagues. We protested here in Samburu County and said, no, we have been left out. There is no one of our own that has been given this job, even a clerical officer, and they have applied. They told us, no, the advert has indicated somewhere there, down there, that if you are a person with disability, you tick. There's somewhere you tick. And I told them I also applied to be a supervisor in this process. And I never saw in that advert that is online where you have indicated that a person with disability has some special consideration there. So at times they use the policies that are there on the papers to defend themselves, because it wasn't there. You can come and we talk. We give you maybe we give some of you some vacancies now to mobilize for the voters, others to be clerks. And they told us to, they promised us to visit the office and talk with them in private. So generally, data is not captured pertaining the policies that favors people with different types of disability.
Thank you so much. So the next part that I need us to talk about is participation. It's nearing electioneering time, and you know the elections in Kenya, how Kenyans are passionate in participating to political processes. That is a democratic right to every Kenyan, including persons living with disability, according to the United Nations Convention on Human Rights. So it's something that's a human right for every person to participate in a democratic process, like a political process, like we are here to face here in Kenya just on August. So my question is, persons living with disability well represented when it comes to politics here in Kenya? Maybe you can talk about their representation when it comes to political parties. Are they represented in political parties? Are they considered when it comes to arrangement of rallies and forums where they access? Can they access those forums? Are they considered when it comes to that? And are they also given a chance to run for office?
Thank you for that good question. I can try to talk about political participation for those people with disability. There is minimal person with disabilities in local and national politics participation. Generally, we have seen there is an exclusion of person with disability in political life, mainly attributed to three main factors. And I think that the three factors I can say that as disadvantage, maybe limiting us in the process, is the lack of maybe education and financial resources for most PWDs. You know, persons with disabilities, only very few of them have managed to attain a maximum level of education. Maybe those who have gone beyond Form 4 and above, it is a small percentage. So education has limited them in the process. Also, financial resources. You know, in Africa or in Kenya, the country that we are, the current world, you cannot maybe participate in such process, maybe political process or any other thing, if you don't have resources. And even when you are not educated or you don't have that proper education, there is nothing you can do. That means you will lack resources. There's nothing you have generally. Also, the second factor is a social stigma. And the third one is accessibility to physical infrastructure and legal framework. There is social stigma in our cultural setup. People have negative attitude toward disability. This is no doubt something that is deep rooted in our culture. So this negative attitude towards PWDs is what is limiting many people with disability in the political process, because the moment you said, I want to maybe fight for a particular position, people will have that negative attitude for you. There is that stigma that you have to fight for, because people say, okay, this person may be seeking sympathy, this person wants this and that. So there is that social stigma in general as one of the setbacks. Then I also say the third factor is inaccessibility to physical infrastructure and legal framework. As I said earlier, some countries like Kenya have legislation in place to enable PWDs to vote. That is true because in our constitution, there is a right to vote. All people are entitled to a right to vote, provided that you are 18 years and above. Now, here come a question: what is the point of voting in leaders who doesn't care about you? Because now, if we have been entitled to that right to vote in leaders we want, and when you look at these policies, we have not been given that chance, because the only chance PWDs have been given, and that is recognized by the law, is the nomination process. The nomination process is also something that is done in a skewed way. That is, there is no, maybe there are some policies that are not fair for even those who are learned, those who have managed to attain education. So the nomination process is done in a skewed way, meaning that they used to issue nominations to people with disability regardless of their level of education. And when I say regardless of the level of education, it means that even if you don't have that basic education, provided you have got a good connection with the politician or the parties that are concerned, you will automatically get that nomination. You will be given that nomination. So that means we also have policies in place that are not being implemented, or that are not being put in a proper way to make sure that PWDs benefit from some of the opportunities or some of the privileges government gives.
It's a challenge actually when it comes to especially the issue of nominations, whereby political parties nominate PWDs in a very skewed way, and people even maybe who don't qualify, because in as much as a person is having a disability, but at the end of the day, these are people who are also educated. These are people who have leadership skills, and they should be given an opportunity to actually utilize that, use that education, use the talent, and also the leadership qualities that they have. So that's really unfortunate, and I hope that there are some measures that you people are taking in place to make sure that those shortcomings don't arise again when it comes to nominations into political parties, and also making sure that persons with disability are also supported and they run for office favorably like any other candidate who chooses to go not the nomination way, but decides to go to the ballot, because that's also possible. I need us to talk something little on the current issue. Climate change is a threat to any person, whether a person with a disability or any other individual. There is actually a crisis of climate change, and you are very aware of that. And when we talk about climate change, we are talking about the weather changes that are persistent, and they change the way of life, how we live. They change, maybe they affect our health. It also affects maybe economical way of living. People are struggling because of drought. People are struggling because of floods. And then having in mind people with disability, sometimes in one way or another they are disadvantaged, because when we talk about maybe drought, it affects so much their purchasing power and their household economy. And also when we talk about climate change, it also affects their health. So I just need you to comment about that, having health perspective in mind, and also having the economical perspective in mind. How are people living with disability coping with climate change?
Climate change is a change in global or regional climate patterns. It has had adverse impact on the lives of the persons with disabilities. Currently, we have got drought that has largely hit the northern parts of Kenya. I think 14 counties or more, including Samburu as one of them. We all know that drought can harm food production and human health. A good number of livestock have been wiped away, leaving hundreds of families without any other alternative source of livelihood. Water has become scarce. People have to travel for long distances to fetch water. Now, the negative part of it is that we people with disabilities or with maybe physical challenges, we cannot go for that long distances to fetch water, because now those with mobility challenges to incur an extra cost of buying drought has made us people with disability to live an expensive, a bit hot days and heat waves that are experienced in a daily basis or on a daily basis. Higher temperatures also increases as the heat-related illnesses also affect us. And we also have a challenge at times when maybe, for example, there was an upsurge of the water lakes that has actually occupied the initial area that has been inhabited by the people. So hundreds of families were displaced by the water that has occupied the land that has normally been dry. And those with PWDs, those people with disabilities had a lot of problem coping with that, because they have been they are supposed to be resettled somewhere else, far from where the flood has occurred. They had to incur economic challenges, and as usual, it is difficult for a person who have got these mobility challenges to work for his daily survival. So those people have been affected. Many have been displaced. Others have been, I don't know, they are living like they are living as as IDPs. So they need a lot of focus. They need a lot of focus from the government to make them cope with such challenges of climate change. I don't know whether there's something I have forgotten.
And maybe just to add on that one, I just wanted to know whether now is the government, you as an advocate and your team, I know that you have a team of advocates that you work with or activists that you work with, then there are some measures that maybe the government, both the national and the county government, has put in place to make sure that persons with disability are cautioned against the adverse weather conditions and climate factors which are affecting their life, having in mind that the majority of them cannot access employment. So there are definitely, when we talk about lack of resources like water, which are very key, then also when you talk about an economy which has been affected so much with COVID-19 and now climate change, then definitely the life for any person anywhere is difficult. But I can imagine persons living with disability. Then what has the government done to caution the effect or the challenges, the hardship persons living with disabilities are undergoing here in Kenya now? Are there some benefits, for example, cash transfers or any other interventions that has been put in place? Maybe you can just talk about that one, please.
Currently, I'm sorry to say that we have not seen any efforts by the government to help with the PWDs to cope with such challenges, because what we are seeing right now, we have got, I don't know, some Red Cross relief offers coming through this government office, like the chief office, the DC's office, and we have had people or household, their names being forwarded. Others have had, others have been receiving some cash, maybe 3,000 as a means to mitigate the drought or to deal with the effects of drought here in Samburu County. But PWDs have been left out. We tried to intervene with that, but also some changes in the government, maybe these transfers have affected it. because the county commissioner that we went to, and he promised us that if something else next happened, because he has been told that the chiefs have considered the PWDs in the process, although we dismissed that as that was a lie, and we tried to convene the national government office through the county commissioner that that was a lie, and we need a special consideration from you. So before even he can deal with the issue, we saw the transfers happening, and they have brought the new ones whom we are not known to, and I think that thing has sabotaged the whole process, and PWDs have been left out without any help right now.
Thank you so much, Jackson. And I really feel that this conversation needs to go to some other levels. The work that you are really doing in this community is impactful and it is helpful. Make sure that you address these issues even to primary policymakers in the county level and in the national level. So you should not tire up fighting this or taking these struggles to the next level, whereby you make sure that the grievances of persons living with disability are taken care of in access to information, communication and good infrastructure, in participation in politics, and also when it comes to climate change, which is a phenomenon that everyone is actually facing at the moment. But I know that the consequences are very severe when it comes to persons living with disability, depending with the degree of disability the person is facing. So please, mine is just to wish you all the best as you continue taking this work, doing this work passionately, and don't leave any stone unturned. Struggle, because at the end of the day, there is light at the end of the tunnel. So my brother, I feel so much honored to have you in Tasia podcast today. We are going to share this information to the public so that people can listen and also start to think about persons living with disability, because I know that the silence that is there is also making people forget that we have persons who need our help. So, but the moment we start to talk, then we'll start to attract attention. So this conversation is going outside there. It will be available in our YouTube channel at Tasia Podcast. It will also be circulating on social media, that is on WhatsApp, on Facebook, and any other platform that we can get, so that people can have this conversation. Thank you so much for honoring our invitation, and we feel honored to talk to you.